Gene Deal is back talking heavy, and this time he's pushing what he calls receipts that, in his view, never made it into 50 Cent's Netflix documentary. The headlines are wild: $1 million check story, talk of advance awareness around Tupac, and a Biggie timeline that challenges what most people think they know. And you're hearing that side right now. You clicked because you heard Gene Deal is dropping bombs that 50 didn't want anybody to see. So let's cut the noise. 50 Cent sold his Diddy documentary to Netflix for millions, and the internet expected one name to be front and center: Gene Deal. Why? Because he was Diddy's bodyguard in the peak Bad Boy years, and he's been one of the loudest voices telling Bad Boy era stories for years. In that lane, he wasn't just around, he was close to key moments. Yet when the series dropped, he wasn't on it. Not a single interview, not one clip, nothing.
New Netflix docuseries about Sean Diddy Combs is making headlines for its never-before-seen footage of the music mogul in the days before his arrest. Now, Combs is threatening legal action against the streamer for airing the unauthorized footage. Behind the series is Combs' longtime rap rival 50 Cent and director Alexandria Stapleton, who sat down with NBC News' Chloe Malas ahead of tonight's release.
And now the word going around is simple. The footage didn't make the cut. Conversations, tapes, details. The kind of stuff that either gets you paid or gets you erased. So today we're running through why the connection reportedly fell apart and what people believe got left on the editing room floor. Here's what this build is steering toward: a day where there was awareness Tupac was about to get hit, and nobody stepped in. A $1 million check story described as something seen up close, with the belief that it ties back to Tupac's death, and a Biggie sequence built around warnings, ignored signals, and choices that, depending on how you read it, helped set the stage for danger. Let's get into it. Quick context first. The rollout was marketed like a deep expose, never-before-seen footage, behind-the-scenes moments, and a series promoted as landing around major legal headlines. Online chatter said it was supposed to be longer, but what hit screens was a 4-part Netflix drop. The marketing message was big: expose everything. Crimes, cover-ups, the whole storm. At least that's how it was sold. But the loud complaint online is that the most important pieces never made it. So who is Gene Deal in this whole situation? Former Bad Boy bodyguard during the era everyone argues about. Right next to the East Coast versus West Coast timeline. Proximity around Vegas when Tupac got hit. Proximity around LA when Biggie got killed. Whether you buy it or not, that's the positioning. Someone tied to the moment, now talking publicly. So the first question stays the same. Why isn't he in the documentary?
I put her on blast because she was telling me, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about, you got footage, you got clothing, I was doing footage, I had pictures, all the stuff that I had, you could figure out a way to pay a brother and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received, and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I was like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff, the first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. If you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, yo, all right, well then, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this document.
The simplest answer getting repeated is money and control. Early on, the team wanted footage and stories. Then a conversation with director Alex Stapleton reportedly changed the vibe. The takeaway being circulated afterward was that 50 didn't control payments or content. Decisions were coming from somewhere else, and the number on the table felt disrespectful. That's the friction point. Unique footage, first-hand stories, major historical moments, and the offer felt like pocket change compared to what the project was worth. So the move was to walk away and refuse participation. But pay isn't the only thing people keep pointing at. Another big reason getting talked about is what didn't get included. Details that would have made the doc messier, riskier, and harder to defend. Take the East Coast versus West Coast war. The documentary covers it. The pushback is that it skipped what's being presented online as the real story behind bodyguard Jake Wolf's death.
Jake. Wolf was not the gunman who killed Jake, and Mark Curry knows that to be true. You understand? And East Coast War was more like Helena of Troy. When Puff got mad at Suge for being out there and allowing Misa to come out there to make money, however she was doing it, to feed her family, he vowed down that it's like, yo, I ain't never fucking with her again, and I ain't never fucking with him again. Puff and Suge had a conversation behind the House of Blues about was we all right, and Tupac was alive. Tupac wasn't dead. So if it was a war, Suge ain't having no conversation with Puff about we good. I know he could be doing a Hoboken hustle, trying to fool a brother, but had he killed my man or some shit like that, I wouldn't have no conversation with Puff. I'd been like, yo, you know what y'all niggas done? You know what happened? And it wasn't no conversation like that, brother. It wasn't no conversation whereas that, Suge made Puff feel like I'm gonna get you a payback for what happened to Jake. This was more so that Puff, Suge, for whatever reason he was mad at Puff, and Puff, for whatever reason he was mad at Suge, it was between them two. It wasn't no whole East Coast wanted the West Coast dead, and the West Coast wanted East Coast to dead, because they still was going out, still chilling, still at places with each other. It was Bad Boy, and it was Death Row. It wasn't no East Coast and no West Coast. West Coast dudes were still coming out on the East Coast getting love. East Coast niggas was still going out on the West Coast getting love. It was Bad Boy versus Death Row, and that's what it was, bro. And it was because of the two CEOs. But Suge tried to straighten it out. I gotta get at the Suge. The Death Row East Coast was going to bring in Eric B. It was going to bring in Big D. And those brothers was from the East Coast. So now they was looking for a representative to come to the meeting from Bad Boy so they could straighten out the shit between Pac and Big and Death Row and Bad Boy. And Puff is the one who refused. Puff is the one to refuse to send a representative or either come himself, and got mad at Zip and them because they were in the Mirage on 57th Street partying with Suge Knight. Got mad at them, and Zip hung up the phone on behind that.
But what you mean by Mark Curry? He know who killed Big J?
It was some Jamaican dude from the Bronx. He's dead now. The police ended up killing him at Magic City. I don't know his name, but Mark Curry know that it wasn't Wolf.
But when I was looking at the documentary, Kirk Burroughs, he did confirm that Big, he didn't want to go to LA, and they was actually getting warnings not to go to LA. But Diddy, he wanted to go, man.
My man, yeah, we must have had warnings, man. I didn't know. I knew that we shouldn't be out there in the first place.
One name that comes up here is Mark Curry, with the idea that he knows exactly who did it. Narrative rejects the government conspiracy angle and leans into a street explanation instead, a person described as a Jamaican guy from the Bronx, plus the story that police later killed him at a club called Magic City. Then it goes further. The East vs. West label gets called misleading. The way it's framed in this telling is Bad Boy Records versus Death Row Records. In that view, artists still moved between coasts and got love. But the core tension, Bad Boy and Death Row, Diddy versus Suge Knight, is treated as the real engine behind the smoke. Then there's another piece people keep bringing up as missing. A peace attempt. The talk is that Death Row tried to set up a meeting to squash the Tupac and Biggie situation, and Bad Boy didn't show. No rep sent, no appearance, no cooling it down. The point being pushed isn't, this proves a crime. It's the moral weight. If peace was on the table and it got ignored, that decision still matters, even if it's not the same thing as pulling a trigger. Now, we hit the part everyone calls explosive. To keep it clean, what comes next is a retelling of accusations and public narratives, not confirmed facts. The story floating around is that there was advance awareness around Quad Studios, and someone close to the center was close enough to watch how it played out. The documentary mentions the 1994 Quad Studios shooting, where Tupac was shot 5 times. What gets emphasized here is a detail people say got stripped out. Diddy, Andre Harrell, and Jimmy Henchman together in Jimmy Henchman's office that same day. Then the scene gets painted like this. Biggie and his crew supposedly didn't even know Diddy was in that office. Diddy was expected to go upstairs to Biggie's session, Junior MAFIA business, but instead stayed behind to keep tabs on what was happening.
The whole incident of the Quad Studio shit. Like in the documentary, they was talking about that, right? You know what I'm saying? They talked about the Quad Studio shit, but they didn't mention the fact, and they left it out, that Big and C's did not know that Puff and Andre Harrell was in Jimmy Henchman's office the day Pac got killed. The day Pac got shot at Quad Studio. Let me repeat that again so it don't get mixed up in the whole thing. They did not mention that Andre Harrell and Puff Daddy and Jimmy Henchman were all all in the office together. Puff was on the office because he was trying to spy on Big and them, because Big was writing the Junior Mafia stuff and Puff had his publishing. I told this to a couple of people before. I said it before, and you got people that's running with it like they knew the story in the whole 9 yards. You understand? They'll lie and you ask them, how do you know that? Who told you? They couldn't even tell you that. They'll tell you some lie, they did some kind of investigation, but it didn't happen like that. You understand? Puff was there to spy on Big because he had owned Big Publishing, and Big had turned around, and the same people who helped Puff get Big Publishing told Big to turn and put Tatiana or put somebody else's name on his publishing, or give it to Lil C's or whoever, this, that, and the third that he wrote for, so he can get the money from it. So that's how that went down. So they was there to spy on Big. In the interim of him being there to spy on Big, Jimmy Henchman told him that they finna teach Pac a lesson, because Pac had owed him some money. So that's why he was up in the studio and was coming to the studio. Pac owed him some money. He was gonna work it off and get some money from doing a song with Lil Sean. And that's what that was about. But Pac was talking greasy to Jimmy Henchman, and Jimmy Henchman wasn't the type of dude that you talk greasy to, alleged, unless you 50 Cent.
So Diddy knew what was going to happen to Pac.
He knew Pac was about to deal well. Yeah, he was there to see it. He was there to see it. He wasn't only there to see Big and them. When Jimmy Henchman told him that, he was there to see what's going to happen to Pac. He was there for that, because had he not been there for that, he would have went up there in the office. He would have went to the studio or the studio session with Big and them. He would have went to that studio session with Big and them. He knew what room Big and them was in. He didn't do that. He was there to see what was going to happen to Pac after Jimmy told him, and that's factual.
Why keep tabs on your own artist? The explanation people repeat is money and leverage. The idea is that Biggie's publishing was controlled and Biggie was trying to maneuver out. The advice being described in this retelling is to put publishing under someone else's name, maybe a wife, maybe Lil Cease, so the money flows differently and control shifts. So the picture becomes Diddy sitting in that office, tracking what Biggie is doing. And while that's happening, a plan gets laid out in the room, a teach Pac a lesson line tied to a debt. A studio appearance described as part of settling that debt, a song with Lil Sean. Then the tone flips because disrespect is part of the mix. And that's the kind of situation that doesn't end quietly. The hard point being pushed is that awareness existed because the plan was spoken out loud in that room. Then comes the logic people keep repeating. If nothing was known, why not go upstairs to Biggie's session? The room location was supposedly known. Yet in this retelling, Diddy stays put and waits.
B idolized a motherfucker, he idolized Tupac, because you gotta realize when a woman looked at Tupac, they probably wanted him. Puff wasn't getting that type of fever from girls. You understand what I'm saying? Puff had to use his money. Puff had to use his position in order to get women. Now, I seen him with some bad joints, and I used to look at them like this, like, not on no hating shit, but like, you wouldn't be here if he wasn't puffed.
Straight facts is how it gets marketed in that story. But the important part is this. That's an accusation being repeated, not independently verified evidence inside this video. Still, the accusation is brutal. Knowing something was coming, no warning, no attempt to stop it. And the belief is that the documentary avoided it. Then the focus shifts to motive and personality. This part gets personal and ties resentment toward Tupac to women, not rap or fame. Tupac gets described as naturally magnetic. Walk into a room and the room shifts. Meanwhile, Diddy gets described as needing money and status to get the same reaction. A specific quote that gets circulated in this story is, "I don't know how to talk to women. I don't know how to talk to girls." The takeaway pushed from that angle is jealousy. Real, personal jealousy, feeding tension over time. Now the money story, not framed like internet gossip, framed like something witnessed.
And my man Boom Dang, AKA my man Slick, a check for $1 million. We don't know, and everybody trying to say, lying, talking about half of it got paid, 500. I don't know. I know when I asked him we asked him, do we ask? No, we didn't ask him. I know when he showed us the check and he walked away after he showed us the check for the $1 million, you understand? I asked Boom, I said, yo, Boom, when did he get a record label? He said, you know how Zip is. I said, when did he get a Zip record label? Zip had a check for $1 million. He said he got it from Barry Hankerson and Jimmy Henchman for his record label, Black Ground Records. So now, if that's true, we know Jimmy Henchman and Puff was cool. You should be able to trace $1 million if that's the truth. If that's the truth, you should be able to.
The setting is 112th Street, sitting on a stoop with another guy. Eric Zip Von Zip walks up, showing off a new car, proud like he's got something to prove. Then a check comes out. Not any check, a $1 million check. It's described as being flashed like a trophy. And the story attached is that the check came from Barry Hankerson and Jimmy Henchman, connected to Blackground Records. Timing is the hook, right after Tupac's death. Then comes the money trail angle, not cash in a dark alley, but a check that goes through banks and leaves paperwork. Deposit, endorsement, processing, records exist. So the challenge in this narrative is simple. Trace it, if anyone really wants to follow the money. Then another name enters as a potential key. Kirk Burroughs, former president of Bad Boy Records, described as someone who kept detailed notes and files. The story tied to him is that he mentioned paying for people to drive out to Las Vegas around the time Tupac was killed. Even within the way this gets told, there's a limitation acknowledged. Not every detail is personally confirmed from memory. But the bigger point stays the same. If records exist, paper trails can talk. If paperwork shows who got paid to do what, the suggestion is that it could crack things open. So the question hangs, will anyone investigate, or will it stay buried like it's been for almost 30 years?
Help law enforcement on how, if Diddy had anything to do with breaking that money up or giving that money up to him like that? Or did he use somebody else? Or did he do something for somebody else to be able to get that money for that? We don't know.
I was just about to say that too. Keefe D, he can use him for the upcoming trial.
Well, Kirk was meticulous in always keeping notes and files and things like that. But that money can't, just do a trace on $1 million check. Just do a trace on them. I want them to do it, because that would prove that I saw $1 million check. That would prove, just do a trace on it. The man dead now, what you gonna do? Do it.
Now we're at the Biggie section, and this is where it shifts from money to warnings and movement. The setup places Gene Deal at the scene the night Biggie was killed, and the timeline being told doesn't match the clean, simplified story most people grew up hearing. Warnings start coming in. A call gets described from W.S. Worth Hall, known on the street as Unique. The backdrop described as federal prison in Colorado, with the story that a call got through and only 2 words came out: vest up. Then the line goes dead. The explanation offered is that 3-way calls get detected and cut off. A follow-up call to the woman who connected it is described as confirming it really was Unique from Mecca Audio. Then another message comes through her. They're coming out. They're coming to get y'all. So security becomes the issue. Kirk Burroughs gets contacted. More security gets requested, and the crew is described as having only 4 guards total for Diddy, Biggie, and everyone with them, painted as nowhere near enough. Then comes the refusal, no extra protection. Then a second warning arrives from Chaz Williams with the same message. They're coming at y'all. Reasons for beef get listed. What people believed happened to Jake Wolf. A phone call Biggie allegedly made that ended with the Winter Bagel in New York getting shot up. A separate conflict involving a Muslim guy and an argument at Soul Train. And the ongoing tension after Tupac's death, plus street rumors about sets and affiliations. So the danger gets treated as real. The timeline moves to Andre Harrell's house, where Diddy was staying. A detail gets thrown in. Diddy coming down the stairs in a white Beverly Hills hotel robe, joked about like it was stolen. Then the tone snaps back serious. The warning is delivered directly. Yo Puff, I got intel. People are gonna come and try to kill us. The reaction described is blunt dismissal. I don't want to hear that. Then the offer. You ain't gotta go if you don't want to go. Then walking out. Next detail. Clark Kent, DJ and a VP at Motown Records, described as being in Biggie's room the night before. A party gets framed as not random, set up at the Peterson Museum, with Biggie allegedly saying, D-Rock and Puff set this party up for me to go to. Then we're outside. High alert, blood's everywhere, a weapon held behind the back. Then an order to get in the car. Resistance gets described. How you gonna tell me how to do my job? Followed by a threat. Get in, or lose the job at Bad Boy. So the car happens. A command to the driver, Kenny. Run the next 3 lights. Get out fast. Then Tone says, Big's name ain't coming across the light. A gun gets pointed. Shots ring out. Pop, 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 pop. Kenny guns the car forward. Anger erupts. They're shooting at Big. Then the U-turn. Doors open on Biggie's car. Everyone out except him. A chase follows in another Suburban, but the shooter's car gets lost. Then the hospital decision. A hospital 2 blocks away exists, but the drive goes 30 minutes. Biggie bleeding, time draining, and the question writes itself. Final words get reported. Don't let him go to sleep. Keep him up. Biggie's last words reported as, just do it. And the belief expressed is that the closer hospital might have changed everything.
Could Puff have been involved in Tupac's murder or Biggie's murder?
I think that when you set up an atmosphere for something to happen, how involved are you? You set up the atmosphere. You put people in positions to get hurt. He knew that somebody was going to do something. He was told. I told him before we left. I told him. Mace told him. See, people ain't telling. See, everybody think that Gene Deal is the only one know this shit. I'm not the only one that's noticed and privileged to this information. I'm the only one that's speaking on it and has spoke on it. Now people are coming out gradually, but when Puff set up an atmosphere for somebody to get hurt and they get hurt, don't you take some responsibility for that?
Is that more tactics? He's not going to pull the trigger. He might not even pay someone to do so, but like releasing that song Who Shot You, that creates an atmosphere, creating certain things and planting seeds in somebody else's mind to be number one, where Tupac ends up getting killed, Biggie ends up being killed.
Now the focus turns to responsibility, not a trigger pull accusation. This angle is about environment and choices. The point being pushed is that when you set up an atmosphere for something to happen, you carry responsibility when it happens. Put people in positions where they can get hurt, ignore warnings, refuse de-escalation. That's the moral accusation sitting underneath all of this. Not, he did it, but he helped create conditions. It's also repeated that other people were around and saw pieces of this, and the reason it's loud now is because one person is willing to talk publicly. Zooming out, the story points to fuel on the fire. Music like Who Shot Ya, dropping after Tupac got shot, turning up tension, and refusing peace meetings that could have squashed the whole beef. Biggie going to LA after multiple warnings gets treated as another choice that increased risk. And the idea that violence was being talked about in the background is used to push the same question. If you build an atmosphere where someone gets hurt, and then someone gets hurt, do you share responsibility? Again, this isn't framed as pulling a trigger. Not framed as direct payment. It's framed as a chain reaction. Situations set up, seeds planted, escalation chosen, peace refused, and the belief that those choices helped create a dangerous environment that ended in tragedy. So now the big question becomes, why would 50 Cent leave all of this out of his documentary? 3 reasons get brought up again and again. First, legal risk. The Keefe D case around Tupac remains pending, and a documentary leaning into unverified accusations can turn into a legal nightmare fast. Lawyers shut down anything that could trigger lawsuits, defamation issues, or complications around an active case. Second, credibility. 50 wants the documentary taken seriously, something that lands like a cultural moment, something with impact. Gene Deal is entertaining, but not everyone buys everything. Some call him a conspiracy guy. Cutting him out can look like a move to keep the series cleaner, harder to attack, and less vulnerable to legal pressure. And speaking of legal pressure, Diddy's lawyers already fired shots. A cease and desist reportedly got sent to Netflix, the documentary got called a shameful hit piece, and there were accusations about stolen footage. From a business standpoint, piling on more unprovable accusations could hand them extra ammo. Third, money. The price was allegedly too high. Gene wanted to be paid what he felt the footage and story were worth. 50 is a businessman. If the numbers don't make sense, the cut happens. Simple math. Business is business. While all of this gets argued online, there's extra drama too. One story making the rounds claims Diddy sent 50 Cent flowers at Club 11 in Miami, and not the cute kind. According to a funeral director angle people keep repeating, they were allegedly funeral arrangement flowers. Before we wrap, quick reminder, if you're rocking with MicTrip, hit subscribe, smash like, and drop a comment, because this channel stays on top of what mainstream edits leave out. Now after hearing all this, it's easy to see why some people believe it. Specific details, confident delivery, consistency over the years, but keep it real. These are still allegations. This is a narrative, not a verdict. Listen, but keep your head on. The big takeaway being pushed is that 50 either couldn't or wouldn't include the material, advance awareness around Quad Studios, the $1 million check story, the warnings before Biggie's death, and the broader idea that certain choices and refusals to de-escalate helped fuel the atmosphere. And that kind of content is exactly what gets labeled too risky. Maybe it was legal, maybe it was credibility, maybe it was money. Whatever it was, it didn't make the edit, and now it's getting pushed straight to the public. Now I want to know what you think. Comment down below. Do you believe this account? Do you think Diddy had any involvement in what happened to Tupac and Biggie? And what do you think happens next as these allegations keep going public? I'll see you in the next one. Peace.